Hello and welcome to Adobe Creative Cloud. My name is Terry White. We're going to talk about some brand new, well not brand new, we're going to talk about some techniques for no sound. How are you guys not hearing sound? Can anyone hear me? Let me know if you're getting sound. If you're not getting sound, yay sound. Okay, all right, so you had me scared there for a minute. Okay, so you're getting sound, good, and sound is good, awesome. All right, we got sound. So again, welcome everyone. We're going to talk about simple compositing techniques for beginners, of course using Photoshop. Now, I'm going to do it two different ways. I'm going to show a really basic, simple technique for anyone that can use, just drag and drop, and it's just a quick way to mask and or composite images. And then I'm going to show you a little bit more the kind of thing people always want to do, which is cut someone from a background and put them on a different background. So we're going to do an example of each one of those. So welcome everyone from around the world. I see Vegas, Denmark, Atlanta, and all the various places. So welcome. Let's go ahead and jump into it. I'm going to switch over to my computer. And now that I'm on my computer, I've got just a stock wedding photo that I've got open here. And Dave Clayton, what's up, man? And what we're going to do is we're going to just simply show you the other images that I would love to composite onto this. So I've got the initial image open. This was the image I opened up. And of course, I've got a groom image, and I've got the rings image. So I've got, and by the way, those are three separate stock images. Those people probably don't even know each other. But anyway, let's say you had the bride, the groom, and the rings, and you wanted to composite it together. Well, compositing is simply a matter of layering images together in a way that makes it look like it's a single image, or makes it look like you intended to put them together. So like I said, this first way is going to be very basic, very simple. And I'm going to bring the groom in first. So we can bring the groom, and let me make sure I got a good spot for the groom. Where do I want to put the groom? We're going to put the groom down here in the lower left corner. All right, so I'm just going to drag the groom image, which is also something you can now do in Photoshop. You can drag an image from the operating system right into your image that's already open. So I've got him here, and of course he comes in with the free transform. So he's already created a layer called groom. I got that from the file name, by the way, of the file. I can, while I've got him selected, hold down my shift key to keep it proportional and scale him down. We don't want him too big. The bride is the main star of the show here. And now, while I've got him here, I tend to not want my subjects facing away from the frame. So for example, if he was going to be over here, the way he's facing is fine. But since I'm going to put him over here, while I've got him selected, I'm going to right click and I'm going to flip horizontal so that he's facing the other way. He's facing into the frame, or at least leaning into the frame. He's facing forward, but at least leaning into the frame, arms folded to her. Now at this point, I can, if I'm happy with the size, if I'm happy with everything else, I can go ahead and just hit enter, and that will commit to that size and go ahead and give us that layer. Now at this point, we've just got a rectangle photo on top of a square photo. Nothing really spectacular there. Now, to composite this, we can do this a couple of different ways. We can go in and simply lower the opacity to kind of like ghost him in, but then we still kind of see the rectangle. So let's deal with that rectangle first, and then we'll go ahead and worry about the opacity level of that. Now, we can get rid of the rectangle shape or feel of it a couple of ways. One way, if you go to that groom layer, which we're on by default, that's the one we just put in. So we're on the groom layer. We go down to the bottom of that layer panel. The third icon on the layer panel is the mask icon. Add a layer mask. So we're going to go ahead and just simply click, add a layer mask. That's it. Didn't do anything extra. Just added a layer mask. And now that that layer mask, Aaron Roth is in the house. What's up, Aaron? You notice that it puts that little white rectangle next to the groom layer. So this is your mask. This is your actual pixels. All right, so now that we got that mask in place, to hide something on a layer, all you have to do is paint the opposite color of the mask. The mask is white right now, so if I want to hide any part of this, I paint with black. If I wanted to reveal any part of it, I'd paint with white. So it's completely revealed. We see the entire layer. I grab my paintbrush, switch to black foreground color, and now if I start painting, I could kind of like hide at least the roughness or the rigidness of that shape. Now, of course, if I kept painting, I could paint right into him and start hiding him in general, but that's not what I want to do. I just want to simply get rid of some of the edges around that rectangle itself. So now, if I were to lower the opacity of the whole layer, it blends in a little better. Now, we could, of course, get into cutting him out completely, so there is no background whatsoever, and we're going to do that on the next example. But I just wanted to show you that's one example, one way you could blend in another image. So the same thing, if we want to bring in the rings, we can go back and do the same kind of thing, drag the ring image over. That will bring up that image. We're going to put that image in the upper right-hand corner. Hold down the Shift key, scale it down, and same kind of thing. We're going to mask it, but we're going to do it in more of a uniform way. Instead of me trying to paint an oval around it, which would not be that great, we can make an oval. We can just simply use our elliptical selection tool. We're going to go right near the center of the composite here. We're going to hold down our Option key and drag outward. That will give me my oval shape. Now that I've got my oval shape, the next thing I want to do is feather the edges of it so the edges are nice and soft, just like the brush. So we'll go up to our select menu. We will choose Modify, and we will choose Feather. Now when I choose Modify and Feather, the amount is always subjective. It depends on the resolution of the image, how much you want it to feather, so forth and so on. So I'm going to give it, oh, I don't know, we'll start out at 10 pixels. Maybe that's too much, maybe it's too little. I won't know until I see it. All right, so now we feathered that selection, so it's not hard edge. It doesn't look like scissors. It's actually soft by 10 pixels. And now at this point, I could just delete if I want to get rid of those, but I want to mask instead. So we're going to use our mask option down in the bottom right corner of the layers panel, just like we did before. And we click to add a mask. That will mask out everything outside of that ellipse to give us that perfect oval soft shape. So that would be another way to do it instead of using the paintbrush. And that way you get a composite that looks a lot neater, a lot better, and of course you can still lower the opacity so it doesn't overpower your image. You could also do things like free transform it if you wanted to tilt it and maybe put it, since she's kind of leaning over and he's kind of leaning over, got this whole lean thing going on, you can kind of do it that way. Okay, that was a very, again, basic way of compositing. Pretty simple. Just simply dragging images on, ghosting them out, masking them out with perfect shapes, feathering those perfect shapes so we get nice soft edges. Okay, but this is, like I said, just for beginners. What people really tend to want to do is cut an image out and put it on a different background. So let's go to that example now. I'm going to close this wedding example. And we've got a photograph of a model I photographed last week. And she was in studio, obviously. We see a nice studio strobe right in the reflection of her sunglasses. And of course, whenever you take a picture of someone, what do they always say? Can you put me on the beach? And of course, we all laugh and ha ha ha, of course. Because people like to have themselves be somewhere they always either wanted to be or like to be often. So in this case, she's dressed for the beach. She's got a nice sundress on, or a nice top on, nice sunglasses with a red, white, and blue theme going on. So let's go find her a nice beach to go on. So we can either bring up our own images of beaches, of course, or we can go search for one on Adobe Stock. So I'm just going to search for beach photos on Adobe Stock, and I kind of like this one. So I'm just going to go ahead and drag it right into the scene, right from that panel. Now, of course, I have not licensed this image yet. This image is just a preview version of this beach image with the file number and the watermark on it. But now I can go ahead and scale it. I can get this to be the size of the whole scene, because that's going to be our background. Hit enter, and then I can put the panel away. All right, so now, of course, we've got the tropical beach on top of the model, and we need it to be the other way around. So in order to move the beach below the background image or the model image, I need to unlock it. And the easiest way to do that now in Photoshop is to simply click the lock icon, and that turns it into a layer. And we're just going to rename that layer model. So now we can drag and drop and simply move that below. And now we know that she's on top of the beach background, unfortunately with her own background. So when you're thinking of compositing, and by the way, let me give you a couple of tips right off the bat. Any photographer will always tell you, any good photographer will always tell you, it's better to shoot her, photograph her on the beach. That way you don't have to deal with compositing. You don't have to worry about trying to make it all look right. But in a case like this, where you're going to photograph someone with maybe the later intent of compositing, the tip would be, obviously, shoot them on a nice plain background. That makes your job easier. You photograph her on a brown background, for example, or a tan background, it's going to be harder to cut her out because the computer is not going to distinguish her skin tone versus that background. But you shoot her on a nice contrasting background, it'll be a lot easier. And the recommended color, if you're going to shoot or photograph for the purpose of cutting it out, is gray. So even though I photographed this on white, gray would have even been easier to make it cut out. All right, so with that said, we've got our subject. Now how do we do this? How do we expose the background by getting rid of the white background? Well, what you don't want to do, for my beginners out there, I got to remember this is a beginner class, you don't want to do things like use the eraser tool. Because I'm even trying to find it here. The eraser, there's a background eraser, there's a magic eraser, and there should just be a regular eraser here somewhere. But those tools are, first of all, destructive. And they will take a lot of time, and the results won't be worth the time. Because the amount of, oh, there's my regular eraser right there. Because what you'll have to end up doing is you'll spend a lot of time, there we go. You'll spend a lot of time cutting out around in the intricate parts of your subject. So while the eraser will erase the white, it's way too hard to do it that way. So let me undo that. And now we're on the model layer. That's the layer we have selected. And what we're going to do instead is we're going to let Photoshop do most of our work for us. We're going to go to the select menu. We're going to come down to the new select and mask. Select and mask replaces refine edge. And refine edge is still there. If you ever want to get to it, just hold down your shift key and choose select and mask, and that will bring up the refine edge. But anyway, that'll bring up refine edge, and you'll say, wait, whoa, what happened? Why did my image disappear? And it depends on the settings you have in the view mode. So if I go to the view mode and I go to onion skin, that will allow me to see and even control how much that I see of my subject on my background. You can also choose to see it on black, white, red, marching ant, so forth and so on. Let's go to onion skin first. We're not going to really see any of those changes until we make a selection. So now we're on onion skin. We can say expose more of the model, kind of ghost the background in there a little bit. And then what it's going to do is it takes me right into a selection tool. It takes me into quick select right in select and mask. Now, if you were an older Photoshop user, you would have to do that first before going into refine edge, but select and mask gives us quick select built right in. So now here's the tricky part. You want to make sure, of course, and I'm just dragging this tool through my subject. You want to make sure that you don't miss anything. So before you say, okay, I'm done, you want to check to make sure that you got everything. And it's hard to see when you're in onion skin. It's hard to make sure that you got everything. So the way you check it is to go and look at it in different modes. And it will also show you how bad of a selection you really have. So if I go look at it on black, What I'm really looking for here is to make sure that I don't miss parts like I was going to miss on the right side of her. That I don't miss any. I'm cutting a finger off there. You want to make sure you don't miss any of those parts. That's why it's important to check. She'd probably be kind of upset that we're missing a finger. All right, so we're going to get the rest of those glasses. Just go all the way around your image, check all the edges to make sure you're not missing any body parts or anything important that should be in the image. Okay, so now that we've got that in place, the next thing, okay, so now I've done my quick select. I can see that I have the entire subject selected. Now we need to work on the edges. So I'm going to go back to a mode here where I can actually see what my final result's going to be. Because a lot of times we'll try and judge the selection against black or against white or against some other color. And you spend a lot of time trying to fix something that you can't even notice in the final result. So I like to do it at this point on the final result, which is on layers. That way I'll see exactly what I'm going to get before I commit to it. All right, so now that I'm on layers, I usually turn on Smart Radius, and I usually increase that Smart Radius by 4 or 5 pixels. What Smart Radius does is it kind of smooths out the edges that should be hard and feathers out the edges that should be soft. So like instead of it being a blocky cutout kind of around her dress, it'll be a nice smooth edge around her dress. So that takes care of that. The next thing I need to do is go in where, like for example, I can still see some of the background in her hair, which is hair is always the hardest. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the Refine Edge tool, which is the second one. And I'm just, oh, brush is way too big. Let's make our brush smaller. There we go. And then I'm just going to come along this edge to refine it. Now, once I'm dragging around it, I'm kind of telling Photoshop the color that I don't want. It will recalculate and try and do a better job of that, or eliminating that color around the edge of my image. Same thing in here. I need to come in here and just kind of paint out or refine out some of that color. Now, I'm still seeing a little gray fuzz, especially in the lower left-hand corner and along the back. That's what my other sliders are for. So for example, I could go in and very easily just do a shift edge to the left to kind of shift in a little bit to kind of get rid of some of that area that it was cutting out inappropriately, or not as good. If I go too far, I'll cut too much hair off, so I don't want to do that. Just enough to kind of soften that white fuzz that was from the background on that left-hand side. Now, it's not perfect, but we got a lot closer. Now, the other thing I like to do is, because whatever your subject is going to reflect whatever the environment was around them, there's an option to neutralize that called decontaminate colors. So for example, let's say you photographed your subject on a green background. Well, obviously green is going to reflect onto the subject. So decontaminate colors also knows what the background used to look like, and it kind of decontaminates that green, or in this case, white, from the edges. So now the edges look a lot better by just decontaminating than they did a second ago. So before decontaminate, see the white edge on the left-hand side there behind my head there? See how it popped back in? And if I decontaminate, you can see it took it away right away. All right, so now last but not least, I want to make sure that I am, hang on a little bit there, that I am outputting this. This is the most important part of this dialog box. You want to output to a new layer with mask, with layer mask. So, because otherwise, if you output to a selection or some other thing, then it won't give you what you want. So always output to a new layer with layer mask. And you can even say, remember the settings, so that you don't ever have to choose this stuff over and over again. So now when I click OK, that will give me, it still has my old layer, so you don't lose anything. So you have your old layer if you want to try it again, use different methods, whatever. And you've got your new layer that's been cut out. Now, if you still miss something, like I saw something here on her arm. I thought I might have missed part of her arm, and I think I did. I think this little cut right here is from the arm. The mask is still there. So if I needed to restore that part of the image, I would paint with white, you remember, because white will restore, black hides, and we just want to restore that part of her arm that got inadvertently cut off because I didn't go all the way around the edge and check. All right, so that'll put the arm back, and now we're good to go. Okay, next thing, dead giveaway. There are two more dead giveaways. Number one, the reflection in the glasses, unless you took a studio strobe on the beach, which I'm not above doing that. But in this case, we don't want that studio reflection in the glasses. So we can do that a couple of different ways. Number one, we can go ahead and go to the background and copy it. Actually, before we copy it, let's go to the model. I was just thinking of like 50 different ways to do this. Go to the model. Let's go ahead and select the sunglasses, the lenses of them. So we'll use quick select once again. We'll make our brush nice and small, and we'll just come in there and get too much of the frame. All right, so now we're going to hold down the Option key or Alt key and tell it, no, 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 just give us the frame. All right, so now that I've got the frame, now we can go to the background, and we can go to Edit, and we can go Copy, because it will copy, even though that selection originated on the model, we switch layers. So technically the background selected in the shape of sunglasses. So now we can copy that and return to our either our model layer or make a brand new layer. And then we can say paste into. And that will give us our reflection on a new layer that we can now tone down a bit, like lower the opacity, or mask, or just kind of, here we tone it up, and we can use levels, and we can make it brighter, or in my case, I want to make it a little darker. I don't want it to be so bright. There we go. Tone that down, that reflection down just a bit, and there we are. So play around with the reflection, put whatever you want to reflect in the glasses. And so I said there were two dead giveaways. There was actually three. One was the glasses, two more. The color. Oftentimes when you shoot in a studio setting and then try and composite it in an organic or outside setting, the light just doesn't match. Her skin, tone, brightness, lightness doesn't really reflect what she would look like under sunlight. So one way to do that is simply tone the entire image to be the same. That way you won't have to worry about it, because you're not only changing her color, but you're also changing the background color so it all looks the same. And an easy way to do that is using an adjustment layer. In your adjustment layers, you've got this adjustment layer called Color Lookup. You can either use Color Lookup or Photo Filter, whichever one you prefer. I'm going to use Color Lookup. And when I go to Color Lookup, it's asking me for a LUT file, a lookup table, and I'm like, okay, just choose this one. Go to Fall Colors. I know it's not fall, it's going to be summer, but that's okay. Fall colors look good. We go to Fall Colors. You can do soft, warmy look. You can do all kinds of looks, but Fall Colors, trust me, we'll work on this. Fall Colors. Now see how she got kind of tanned a little bit. Everything's kind of matching, and again, you can play around with the opacity of that look, tone it down, tone it up, paint it in, because it comes with its own mask. You can put it wherever you want. So that was just applying a color lookup table. So that was two. Number three, well, it still says Adobe Stock. So now that we're happy with that background, that's the background we're going to use, we can right click on this and we can say license image. And that will license the image so that we can use it royalty free from here on out. So if I ever need a beach, I'll have one. And once that updates, it should then remove the Adobe Stock and remove the file number and give me the high-res version. That's why I wasn't so concerned about scaling it up. All right, and now we've got our final composite. Okay, so let's see here. Rome just asked me, how would I add something? Let's see what he said here. Put clouds in the glasses. Yeah, you can put anything in the glasses. Whatever part of the image you want to select and do it. All right. Photographers need to learn to edit as well. Yes, we do. Don't erase. No, don't erase. Just going back through the comments here, make sure I didn't miss anything. No, erasing's bad. Erasing's permanent and just not really a good way to do it. Okay. All right, so you guys get the idea. Those are a couple simple techniques. I know the last one wasn't as simple, but trust me, you can watch the replay, watch it over and over again. It's not really that hard. And if you set yourself up for success to begin with, it'll even be easier. So like I said, if you know you're going to composite, you might want to photograph on a gray background, because that would be the absolute easiest to cut out on. White will work, of course. Any contrasting color will work. But when your subject is on the same color as the subject is wearing, or the same color as the skin tone, that's what's going to make it really hard. So people always say, you're cheating. You cut that out of a white background. That was easy. And I just nod and say, yes, because I planned it that way. Proper planning will make for better results. It'll make it much, much easier. All right, so that's it for today's stream. Thanks for watching, everyone, and thanks for coming from all over the world to see this. And we will catch you on the next one. I will be streaming tomorrow on the CC Design channel, I believe, earlier in the day, 1 p.m. my time, 10 a.m. Pacific time. So facebook.com/Adobe CC Design. And we'll be talking about some design topic that I think you'll like. All right. Cheers, everybody. Take care. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.